Right here with Reaction, the Hill's Joe Concha, American First Action Senior Advisor, former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. All right, Sean, we'll start with you. You know, first of all, I didn't know half the people. I mean, I'm like, who's this guy? Wait a minute, who's this one? Who's this guy?
You may not know half tonight either.
No, exactly. I mean, and then I'm listening, and it's like they're all trying they're saying the same thing, except, no. I'm going to give freer health care, freer education. You know, I'm really going to, whatever.
I was going to throw out a phrase in Spanish, but I thought that might be pandering to your audience. Look, last night you're absolutely right, and it's one thing. Ted Cruz is retweeting Bill Maher, and now I'm agreeing with the mainstream media. But that's what last night was. They didn't not only did they not lay a glove on Donald Trump, but they didn't lay one on Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden. And what I didn't understand last night is, with the exception of Elizabeth Warren, who's at least within striking distance, the other 9 people on that stage tonight, if they don't tear down Biden or Sanders, they have no shot. And so I really don't understand what it got last night. For some of these people, this is the first time that they had the opportunity, albeit for 60 seconds, to address the American people or the constituency of MSNBC, who are their base. And they didn't do anything to impress them. There's no one that stood out. When we're sitting here the day after talking about which phrase in Spanish was more authentic, that's a problem.
What's your reaction, Joe Concha?
S&P, Sean, small and pandering. They looked small. I agree with Donnie Deutsch in terms of you put a Donald Trump up against any of these candidates, and he would dominate the room while, again, to Sean's point and to others that you played in some of those clips, they didn't talk about addressing in any real way solutions around immigration and the crisis at the border, around health care, around what they would do to make this economy better, if that's possible, considering the way that it's going. So, yeah, and then from a technical perspective, in terms of MSNBC losing their audio, I mean, I thought that they were going to blame either the Russians or the KG used to be, but that didn't happen.
I thought
everything went wrong last night.
I thought the Russians did it.
Yeah, there's a lot of jokes.
Can I make one point that's gotten lost in the discussion? Because I know, and I agree with Joe, absolutely. The idea that they spent more time on set design than figuring out whether or not people could hear and listen to the debate is pretty much ridiculous. But the other thing that I think is interesting in this whole deal is that when you look at both the Democrats' debate in the last cycle that they had a contestant one, and the Republican one in 2016, the first night that Fox hosted a debate, it was in Cleveland. We had 24 million people. Last night, there was 15 million people. And, oh, by the way, it was on 3 networks, Telemundo, MSNBC, and NBC. The idea that with all 3 combined, that they were that low on the scale compared to where we were shows a lack of enthusiasm and interest in this race that, frankly, hasn't got talked about today.
Everything Russia, Joe, happened on their watch. Obama-Biden's record stand on its own. Obamacare, but then 13 million more Americans, food stamps, 8 million more poverty, lowest labor participation rate, worst recovery since the 40s. All right, I say it all the time. But now we have the Trump record. 6 million new jobs, 6 million fewer Americans on food stamps. The first time we're energy independent. We have the best employment situation in this country since 1969. Concha, I don't even think you were born by 1969.
I was not, no. I don't even think Spicer was either, quite frankly. Yeah, we're 70s children.
I can tell you the Mets starting lineup. They won the World Series. I could tell you Cleon Jones, Tommy Agee, Jerry Grody, Tim McGraw in the bullpen, Tom Seaver, Ray Sadecki, Jerry Kuzman, Ed Kranepool, Bud Harrelson, Wayne Garrett. You want me to keep going? I was 8 years old.
Where's Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden? Weren't they on that team? That was 86. Sorry, more my time. Anyway, I hope with Joe Biden, tonight, and it's not going to happen, but there should be a question, and I would hope it would happen at some point. What did you do to prevent Russian interference in the 2016 election when you were aware of it? Since that's on his record. Everybody blames Trump. What about the people that were in office? I would like to see that. And again, to your point, Donald Trump has a story and a record to run on. What are these 25 Democrats running on besides giving away free things and not being able to explain how to pay for it besides taxing the American people?
Sean, I would just say this.
Last word,
You're
Sean
right. The
Spicer.
economy's booming, but what he has done on opioids, veterans, the military, cutting regulations. This president's record isn't hypothetical as it was last cycle. This is not a theoretical discussion. This president has a record to run on that extends well beyond the economy. It talks about what he's done for the veterans, how he's plussed up the military budget, and how he's combating the opioid addiction problem in so many communities. That didn't even get brought up last night. I don't know how these people feel like they're going to take on Donald Trump when they can't even contrast what they're going to do to the record that he's had as president.
And Sean, it doesn't help the fact that the moderators didn't bring up any of those topics either to ask them about. It became all about social issues and not about the issues that matter to people at home watching.
All right, guys, thank you. Appreciate your insight.